Okay, so sometimes collages work and sometimes they don't. In my sketchbook here, I did these mini collages when I was working with my blue series. And they were okay when I did them and I kind of left them. And now coming back and looking at them, I realized that they're way too busy. There's like too many patterns going on. So I wondered, let me see if I can figure out a way to make them better. Instead of having a disaster, let's see if we can make it into a piece that actually works. And here is a second set of collages that I did at the same time. And you'll see I was using a lot of the same pattern pieces, which is why they're super, super busy. So what I'm going to do is see if I can do something with these to make them a little bit less busy and a little bit more acceptable for what I would want as final collage pieces. Again, these are my sketchbook pieces, so they're not meant to be final, anything that would be sold or used as a final piece. They're really just my experiments. But why not experiment with collages that you don't like or that don't work and see if you can make them better? So I have my little ramekin of glazing medium just to sort of glue the stuff on, and my color shaper to glue it down. Looks like it needs a cleaning. And then I have some various papers that I pulled out. Now these papers, I have a dark blue paper too. These papers are basically just tissue paper that I mixed up some watery watercolor. This is actually deli paper. That I mixed up some either watered down acrylic or watercolor paper and did really, really light washes on with a brush very gently. You'll see this one's sort of dried, all folded together. That's actually kind of an interesting texture. Really as papers that I could use as more solid accent type pieces or things that I could put over other areas or pieces to sort of subdue them a little bit. So I pulled out these particular ones because I think they were closest to the color of the stuff that's here. This really sort of tealy green is kind of cool. I mean, even just doing that and sort of bringing down some of that busyness seems to help. The orange, I'm not sure if that works. I thought it might sort of go in here, but I'm not sure that I want to accent that. So then I also have some blues and this sort of dark blue too, which I like, which kind of mutes down the colors. So what I'm going to do is see if I can find some pieces. And what I did is I kind of pre-ripped some pieces. So I did a big piece and a little piece for each collage. And so now what I want to do is, the busy part to me is kind of this big circular collage paper that I sort of painted with I don't know if it was a palette knife or something that had a little bit of a tooth on the end of it as a scraper. Sometimes I use something like this that has little teeth on it to sort of create some marks when the paint's wet. And I liked all the color and I liked the patterns in it. I think it's probably just too much. So I cut out a few pieces, and I'm, sort of looking at the corners to start with. Looks like this little edge didn't quite get glued down. So let me start by gluing that down. And then I have to figure out where I can put this other piece. I do like the text here, so I want to maybe try to keep that. This brown now kind of stands out, so I may need to shift this up just a little bit to pull some of that in, although I don't like this here now. There's also this busy piece up here that's not really connected, and then there's that big white gap there. So maybe I can also, I think I want to pull that back down. Maybe I can also fill in that gap a little bit. Now, because these are on tissue paper, they're still going to be fairly transparent. So I still will see some of that through there. It's just, I think that'll work. It's just going to mute it down a little bit. Maybe pull this back just a little bit. Okay. And so then on this side, again, I kind of like the hidden text here, but it's really kind of busy here. So the question is, can I... And the nice thing about this painted tissue paper is you can turn it over either way. Is there a way to knock down that busyness? That's actually not too bad. I think putting it on this side, I would cover up too much text. I've got this big white gap here, so I could, that's actually not too bad either. It does cover up some of the text. And then these kind of little dark blue marks are a little bit funky hanging out there, so I probably would have to rip it down a little bit. Let's see if I put it at the top. And then the other smaller blue piece I kind of put opposite. What I'm trying to do is sort of balance out the color. Oh, actually, I like that. So let's do that for these two and see how they look once they have a little bit more subdued patterns and busyness where there's a lot of things going on in the papers that I put on. I'm not quite sure why I picked so many pattern papers when I did this one. Normally I would make sure that I have a couple that are fairly plain so that we don't have this problem of it being so patterny it doesn't really look connected. Now it's interesting because when I put this on it actually makes it darker. Well, it's wet. I hope it may dry to this lighter color. That would be good. If not, I think the darker is okay. And I'm just going to put those on, put some medium over it. Yeah, I think, you know, I may need to come back and do something here, so we'll see about that because this brown thing kind of sticks out here, although the brown is now coming through here, so it doesn't look completely out of place. And we'll put this one in this corner. The other nice thing about tissue paper is that, you know, it's really easy to put a layer of the glazing medium on it or matte medium or whatever you're using to glue it down. You don't need a lot. And coming over the top, let's see, do I want to leave that white space or do I want to cover up a little bit? I think I'll cover up just a little bit. And because it's on tissue paper, which is a little bit transparent-y, it just sort of mutes in the background down. Okay, so I'm still not liking that. So I could try, see now this color doesn't really work here because I don't have any of the dark green. That's probably too bright. So there's some sort of tangy orange here. So maybe I can get away with a little piece of this orange up there. And again, this is fairly light. Maybe it needs to be a different shape. Yeah, I like that better. It's covering up the brown a little bit. And kind of giving me a nice light orange color there. So, you know, for me at this stage, it's really just trying to find it's just really filling in those spaces that are maybe bothering me a little bit. I have this little white gap down here too. I could mimic some of that orange down here at the bottom. Let's see what that looks like. And again, I don't want to put it in there the same size or same shape, so I made it a little smaller. Yeah, I think that works okay. Now these are a little bit disconnected because this has this bright teal green, but I didn't want to add teal green over here because there's really no other teal green there, so I think it's fine. So the question is, do I want to try to pull in some of this orange now to make the two pieces a little bit more consistent? Or do I care? Maybe I don't care. I do have orange here. I don't like that. I do kind of like covering up some of this busy writing up here because this is still really busy here, kind of in this section. Maybe I put it right in the middle and cover up some of that busyness. Like this whole area right here is just a little bit sort of muddy and hard to kind of figure out what's going on. So I'm going to kind of connect the two dark pieces with this piece in the middle. But again, it's going to show through the stuff in the back. So this one actually has quite a bit busier stuff in it. Now here again, I could use, I think, this darker green. The orange may be a little too light. I think this is too kind of purpley blue. I think this piece, this color could work too. I think I'm going to start with the tealy green color, so rip some of those. All right, so I've got two bigger pieces. This is another tealy green, but it's kind of a lighter shade. So I don't want to put both these big pieces on the same one, so let me see. I generally start on an edge or in a corner just to see how things are going to look. Unless I'm trying to cover up a specific area, then, you know, it may just have to go directly over that area. Now, the thing with covering this up is like, okay, is there enough interesting stuff left? Like if I cover all of that up, is there anything interesting left? This sort of swoop coming down here is a little bit interesting. Maybe I leave a little bit more of that. I could put two big pieces together. Now, this one again has a lot going on in this bottom corner. So maybe more like that. It's got a dark green piece here, so I want to try to maybe use the darker piece here. I don't like that little white gap there so much, so maybe I'll try to cover that up a little bit. It's hard sometimes to know what piece to put in. Do I want to overlap that piece or not overlap that piece? Here it kind of overlaps, so it adds like another layer and another dimension, which is kind of interesting, but I don't like this sort of curve down that way. So is there another way I can rip it to make it a little more interesting? And then maybe this piece gets added, you know, just as an extra piece down there. What if I double these up? Does that help me? Probably not so much. If I cover that up there, probably not enough interesting going on there. So that's kind of interesting. And again, this will show through because this is a much lighter piece. Or do I really want to cover up this really white section here? Could make this piece smaller. Although I really kind of like this pattern here. It's quite interesting. So maybe I leave that and just, again, rip this into a little bit more interesting shape. Rip off some of these sort of points. Make it a little smaller. I think that could work too. I still got this dark down here. So the question is, do we add another piece to tie, sort of tie that blue in? Do I rip away some of this and bring some of that blue out? Yeah, that's kind of nice. Probably don't need this one then. I'm not sure where I would put it. Okay, well, let's glue these on and see if I need to add more. Now, you do have to be a little bit careful with the tissue paper when you're gluing it on so that you don't rip it. And I generally try to work from the center out because it also helps to kind of push those air bubbles out as you're sort of working. So you see that it sort of covered that up probably more than I wanted, but again, I'm going to let it dry and see what it looks like. Because when you first put this glazing medium on, it's a little bit white, even though it dries clear. So sometimes you have to let it dry and see what it looks like. Okay, and then that one there. Okay, so I do think that's better. I still think I want to add this blue piece, and now it's just a question of where and what size. Oops, it's a little wet. Do I want to sort of fill up that gap? I kind of do. It feels like it's too something. I want to go up, or do I want to go down? I need a little bit bigger piece. Doesn't quite cover that gap. So let's grab a piece here. Okay. And bring that down. Okay. So let's try this piece. I can get it on straight. Okay, yeah, I think that helps. But I think I'm okay with it as it is. All right, so here we had, I think this piece was over here. Kind of liked connecting those two different teal colors. It was just a question of whether I wanted to run it down that corner. I think I do. And then overlap the other piece there. Now this was deli paper, so it was a little bit thicker, so I'm pushing just a little bit harder to get all those air bubbles out. Okay, and then this piece could either go up here. I mean, it kind of looks good down there too, but let's fill up this little white gap up here. And it looks like when I painted this, I left a little spot, so there's still even a little gap in that paper that didn't get painted. Okay, so now I had some other, you know, there's this area here that's still not really connected so well. So the question is, do I add some additional layering down here to sort of bring those together? I don't know if I like it leaving that sort of weird thing like that. What if I tear this so it's not quite so square? kind of run it into this blue there. Now it kind of separates this piece from this piece up here a little bit too much, I think. I think that's okay down here, actually. It covers up a little bit more of that brown. I may have wanted to go over just a little bit more and maybe, I don't know if I can get this up now. I can't. And cover up that little white hole. So maybe I'll just take another little piece and put that on there. Because your eye kind of gets drawn down to there, and that's not really, it's not really necessarily what I want. Okay, so I think those are better. Again, they're still not perfect or probably as less busy as I would normally want my collages to be. But I thought I would at least try to see if I could fix them by maybe adding some additional layers in some of those places where I didn't think it was quite working. I kind of like this lighter green, which just sort of pulls in some of the green accent, again, to this side. So you've got kind of this triangular thing going on with the colors. So it kind of draws your eye around the collage. Now this may have become too much of a solid color. But again, I think once this dries, more of this white will show through. So anyway, don't give up on your collages. If you do something and it's way too busy or it's kind of gotten out of control, just let it dry. And then if you have some really, really thin or semi-transparent papers, you can come back over it and see if you can maybe cover up some of those really busy areas. You could also use acrylic paint to do that. You could mix up some paint and actually paint over those areas. That's sort of like a whole nother, process and stuff to get out to do it. So I generally just try with paper layers first. And if that doesn't work, then you can kind of go more drastic and pull out the paints. Anyway, I had fun sharing these with you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.